They say that you should never judge a book by its cover. But people very easily judge you by your clothes and skin colors. See, people don't bother to look further under. The skin, the flesh, and facial expressions, they'd rather stereotype you by the way that you dress, and they'd rather not bother to think for a second that you might be stressing, that you grew up a mess and had a life full of tension. See, stereotyping has become more of a fashion and evolved into genocide when put into action. And as our actions turn into reactions, we ruin our children who have minds full of passion.
I'm gonna take a freestyle because you know what Bruce is.
So I want to talk to these youth about believing in themselves, following their dreams, overcoming struggle and just being resilient. Also talking about things like mental health and how that impacts you, community safety. It's really important to share your story, I think, for young kids. When they hear other young people sharing their story, they're more inclined to share their own and obviously look for help and try to support their community. And so that's what I hope to do today. And so I'd like to share a story about a kid who grew up kind of screwed up and regretted all he did. And I hope that by the end you won't be as quick to judge, or that you'll drop a stereotype or won't hold a grudge. So imagine a child at 6 years old who was constantly bullied. Even his parents would scold him, so thin from malnutrition, no food in his belly and no food in his kitchen. But that's to be expected in the suburbs of T.O., where the streets run by gangs and low-life zeros. And as time went on, he saw the opportunities. The thugs were his fam, and the gang was true unity. And even when he moved, that wouldn't change his cruel middle school. He never thought to be strange. He was a cage, bottled rage, a maze full of madness. Pain was his address, with mail from sadness. Growing up, he started dealing and stealing a 12-year-old mind that was turned into a villain. He was in love with the block and in love with the chillin'. He was hurt inside, but no one knew how he was feeling. He got hurt and hurt cats. They talk bad, he talked back, and at times, he couldn't leave his house without a weapon. He carried a switchblade everywhere for protection and reflection. He got bullied to jump by his best friends. Flip philosophy, the means don't justify the ends. His young mind was now set for revenge. And the moment that his thug life had peaked and deceased was the same moment he was weak in custody of police. See, it was March 2009. Assault was a charge. This wasn't the first time. He knew this life would be hard. And after this, he knew his record would never be gone. And worst of all, they cuffed him right in front of his mom. They threw him in the back as his mother's eyes filled with tears. The boy, almost 15, had a mind full of fears. They took him to Division 12. He spent the night behind bars and crushed his fantasy of having money and fast cars. It wasn't until he got the chill from the cold cell block that he realized the consequences of stealing and selling rock. He did two things that night. He cried and he thought. He thought of those unfortunate who had even less and how he himself had to be blessed. So he vowed with his head bowed, facing his chest, that he would try his hardest and chase success and give respect back to those who gave him the best. And as his teen entered a period of betterment, his effort towards a positive change became evident. He started giving respect to the nerds with the glasses. He stopped skipping and got above 80 in all of his classes and passes his now realistic goals. He could use some time management, but now his heart isn't cold. He's the kind of person who feeds love to the total population, who wants nothing more than a society with a proper education, and started poetry illustrating his dedication. Now, 4 years later, that youth at 19 would speak about his past and material dreams, the gangster schemes, thugs, goons, and crack fiends, the lust and greed to get the green, and fighting past the point in which one would bleed. His past experiences seemed to motivate and help him concentrate to become better. He now works at a community center to make his cheddar. He'd attend conferences to learn and sharpen his mind. He talked to at-risk youth about the man he left behind and preached the fact that his life was now at its prime. And the youth could help too by spitting a rhyme or even by simply making better use of their time. I had a lot of wonderful teachers myself, and it's lovely to be back in the high school. And I felt like in high school I had just a lot of people that were willing to, give me an opportunity in terms of leadership. And I started just performing in open mics and realized that I had a gift for spoken word poetry. And people said, you should do this more often. And slowly I started volunteering at schools in my community in the Greater Toronto area. And from there, people, started giving me opportunities to do speaking more often. And all of a sudden, one thing after another, here I'm Thunder Bay and I'm doing this. So follow your dreams, believe in yourself, because you never know where it'll take you, for real. He was a social leader / rap diva, either making a change or spitting lyrical fire to help others in this situation and to inspire a young kid. Yeah, he might rock some gangster attire, but he tried to watch his actions and not be a liar. And I know you'd expect this kid to be a criminal. But before you judge someone, don't be as cynical. Because you see, the picture I painted just couldn't be. But the child in that story, that child is me. Thank you, Westgate.